I just want to review the objectives of this panel. I think Noor did a great job of putting that, framing the discussion. We are going to recognize gig and platform workers as a population that have been impacted by the lack of accountability and transparency that technology companies have reinforced through their dehumanizing reorganization of management. And that means placing a priority on algorithmic and AI management rather than human interaction. And by attempting to remove employer accountability, by improperly removing that employer-employee relationship through a total disregard of sovereignty and the rule of law in the locations where they provide service. We intend to center the workers and their organizations as critical drivers of worker responsive solutions to combating exploitation and increased precarity that results from that removed accountability and transparency. And we recognize the importance of coalition building and organizing to strengthen worker responsive solutions. So without any further ado, what I would like to do is introduce each panelist and all of the panelists at once. And from the technology side, could we spotlight each person as I introduce them so we have a sense of who they are? And then I'll pose the questions to each panelist. So first, we have Rose Everdonnet. Rose is a Grab delivery rider, union officer, and organizer based in San Fernando, Pampanga in the Philippines. Rose and her comrades recently launched the Pampanga chapter of Riders Centro last January 25th. And it is a union, Riders Centro is a union of gig delivery riders from different digital platforms. Rose has faced retaliation from Grab because of her organizing activities. In fact, she was suspended from the app last December following a labor rally she attended and has filed a case within the National Labor Relations Commission. She's currently awaiting the labor arbiter's decision. Through her tenacity and fight, she has since been reinstated and continues to organize while awaiting that decision. In the Philippines, apps like Grab use a cash-on delivery system that makes delivery drivers like Rose temporarily pay for their customers' food orders. Then the customer pays the delivery driver back once they receive their order. This opens up the possibility for fake bookings made by scammers and canceled orders. Rose has joined Grab because it promised the opportunity for reasonable wages and flexible working hours. Rose is her family's primary breadwinner, being a single mother of 5, and she was previously employed as a migrant worker in Dubai. Thank you for joining us, Rose. I'll come back for some questions with you. Next, we've got Gulmayron Baritabekova. Gulmayron is a platform taxi driver and Kabalan union member in Kyrgyzstan. Baritabekova is from Osh City, which is in the south of Kyrgyzstan. And her parents instilled in her values of hard work and determination. She received a secondary education, but unfortunately didn't have the opportunity to pursue a higher education due to many different circumstances. She's a mother of 5 wonderful children. And after 17 years of marriage, she and her husband decided to separate because she found out he had a second family. As a single mother struggling to make ends meet, Gulmayron started working as a seamstress and a cook, doing whatever that would provide for her family. In 2018, she decided to try driving a taxi. It was challenging and intimidating at first, but she quickly learned the ins and outs of the job and found she really enjoyed it. Over the next 5 years, she continued to work as a taxi driver, building up her career. In 2022, she became a part of the Taxi Drivers Union in Kyrgyzstan. Kabalan, which has been a great source of support and camaraderie. Being a part of the union has allowed her to connect with other drivers and advocate for better working conditions and pay. As of today, Gulamaran is one of the leaders of the women's wing of the Kabilan Taxi Drivers Union in the Kyrgyz Republic. Welcome, Gulamaran. All right, next we have Ayubami Lawal. Ayubami is an app-based driver and a member of the Amalgamated Union of App-Based Transport Workers of Nigeria. Ayubami is a graduate of business management and an app-based driver in Lagos, Nigeria. She's a mother of three and one of the many working Nigerians that make up the nearly 80% of the population in the informal sector. We all know across the globe that women must work long hours, but app-based women drivers often must work incredibly long hours to support themselves and their families. Ayubami is no different. She's a member, as I said, of the Amalgamated Union of App-Based Transport Workers, and this union is the country's first union covering platform-based workers, and has a victory that this is registered nationally, a victory that shows it's possible for unions to organize workers in the gig economy. And it took them 2 years of organizing to achieve this mark. Something unique to the experience of app drivers in many of the countries we'll be discussing is that platforms do not afford drivers the same basic protections as drivers in wealthier economies. So particularly in Nigeria, drivers risk being assaulted and even killed on the job, as platform companies do not screen the riders. By contrast, riders have access to the driver's name and personal phone numbers. At least one driver is murdered every month, and we'll be focusing on speaking about that in more depth when we ask Ayubami questions. Thanks, Ayubami. All right, so the next person is Luz Miriam Fique Cardenas. Luz Miriam is the president of the Unión de Trabajadores de Plataformas, UNIDAP, in Colombia. Luz Miriam has worked on digital platforms for 6 years, fighting to gain visibility for platform workers, for dignity on the job, for protections around sexual and reproductive health, and health and safety at work. She is also working to combat issues of GBVH that afflict women workers, such as street harassment and harassment from clients and colleagues. At UNIDAP, alongside members and workers, Miriam has been working to find fundamental solutions to the problems they experience every day at work and create spaces for finding those solutions. Technology can lend itself to innovation, but in cases like these, it has increased precarity and led to a lack of transparency, decreased safety and security, and a lack of accountability and protections. Welcome, Luz Miriam. So as you can see, we have...
Muchas gracias. Muy buenos días a todos. ¿Cómo están ustedes?
Great, thanks, Luz Miriam. So as you can see, we have just the most esteemed and fascinating group of panelists. So I will take no more time. Let's dive into these questions. As I said, we'll be asking Rose Everidone the first set of questions. And Rose, I hope you can forgive us. I have a few, but I know you're prepared. As I said, Rose and her comrades recently launched the Pampanga chapter of Riders Centro last January. And Riders Centro is that union of gig delivery riders from different digital platforms. So Rose, as a Grab delivery rider, what challenges do you face in regard to Grab's avoidance of an employer-employee relationship and that lack of accountability and transparency at the expense of drivers and riders that work under them? And additionally, how do those challenges change through the COVID-19 pandemic? But finally, can you tell us a bit more about the Riders Centro's organizing efforts to advocate for social protections and benefits for gig workers, despite the fact that in Philippines, no specific labor laws have provisions for workers in the gig economy? I'll pass it on to you, Rose.
Magandang gabi po. Um, ako nga po pala si Mary Rosie Bardone, Pampanga Delivery Rider and a member of Rider Centro, Pampanga chapter rin. Then, position ko po is Vice President, Vice President Internal po. Tungkol po dun sa regarding po sa employee-employer relationship, ang kinakaharap po talaga ng mga riders sa ngayon ay mabigat. Kumbaga, malaki po yung nakapatong sa amin ngayon kasi ah, from the moment po na sinabi ni Grab na didinay niya na hindi niya kami empleyado, pero yung pagtrato po niya sa mga riders sa ngayon ay parang isang empleyado sapagkat una sa lahat, meron po siyang control sa amin sapagkat nakokontrol po niya yung fare. First and foremost po yung fare na kung saan doon po nagbabase ang kinikita ng isang rider. Yung fare na pwede niyang taasan, yung fare na pwede niyang babaan anytime na naaayon sa kagustuhan niya. Kasi pag during holiday season naman, nagagawa niyang itaas yung mga fare, yung fare matrix na tinatawag. Pero pag dumating na yung tapos na yung mga holiday season na tinatawag na yan, bababa na uli yung fare sa gusto niyang fare kung saan ka magsisimula. Kung ano yung specific na fare na gusto niya, yun na yung mai-implement na walang abiso or konsultasyon sa mga rider. Tapos yung pagsusuot ng mga tamang gears na halimbawa tulad ng uniform at bag na ginagamit namin na may mga logo ng Grab is ano yun, bali compulsory yun. Kailangan mong gawin yun to be identified na rider ka ni Grab at kinakaltas din yun sa bawat rider. Kada weekly salary, kailangan mapunuan mo yung halagang 2.5. Tapos yung pagkakaroon dapat ng mga rider ng mga benefits tulad ng SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig at higit sa lahat yung insurance kasi sa katulad ng mga nakaraang mga araw, maraming riders na yung talagang nadidisgrasya sa daan, wala man lang nakukuha na kahit na anong halaga mula kay Grab para may ipantustos dun sa mga hospital bills nila, sa pangangailangan ng mga pamilya nila, kasi hindi sila makapagtrabaho kasi nga yung iba napilayan, yung iba naman sa kasamaang palad binawian ng buhay. Pero kahit yung sabihin nating burial assistance, wala nun yung yung naipino-provide ang Grab nun sa amin. And then yung mga aksidente na hindi mo naman ginusto pero nangyari siya. So wala talaga siyang any protection para sa rider niya, wala. As in kailangan ikaw sa sarili mo mismo ang magpo-provide nun. And then yung pinaka ngayon ang mga nangyayari, gaya na lang sa sarili ko ngayon, yung illegal suspension sa akin kasi yung pagsususpindi sa akin sa account ko is wala yun basihan. Wala rin silang masabi na talagang doon sa pinaka ano mo na nagawa mo para masuspend ako sa nangyari. Pero ang iginigiit ng Grab is ang nagawa kong ang nagawa ko is yung pag-engage sa tulad ng pagvo-voice out sa pagrarally para masabi yung saloobin ng isang rider sa management. Yun yung naging dahilan nila para i-suspend or i-dismiss yung isang account. And then, para po kasi sa akin yung nung panahon ng COVID-19, yun yung time na talagang yung tingin nila sa rider yung mataas. Kasi hinahalimbawa ka nila sa mga frontliners na tulad ng mga halimbawa yung mga nurses, doctors, yun. Ganun ka nila inilevel kasi ganun kakahalaga nung panahon ng pandemic. Yun yung malaking pagbabagong nangyari noon. Yun yung impact. Pero dumating yung time na yung lumuwag na yung restrictions after ng unti-unti nang nawawala yung COVID, bumalik na sa dati. Bumalik na sa dati yung hanggang sa ngayon na patuloy na bumababa yung fare or yung kinikita ng isang rider. Doon na nagsimulang nag-isip yung mga each tambayan na tinatawag sa mga bawat lugar na kung saan maraming tumatambay at may mga nangungunang mga leader. Doon na nagkaroon ng mga usap-usapan na bakit ganito, bakit imbis na nadadagdagan ng ang fare natin, unti-unti siyang bumababa at ang dahilan ng company, ang dahilan ng Grab is nalulugi na, marami hindi na sila kumikita. Which is parang hindi kapani-paniwala kasi nga nag-boom na nag-boom yung gig economy. Tapos sasabihin sa'yo na kaya lumiliit yung fare is nalulugi na yung company kaya kumbaga kailangang maghigpit ng sinturon, parang ganun. Tapos pagdating naman sa pagdating din sa pagkakaroon ng pagtaas ng bilihin at saka ng patuloy na pagtaas una sa lahat ng gas. Kasi araw-araw nagagas ang rider. Hindi nga lang minsan araw-araw kasi pwedeng sa haba ng kilometer na tinatakbo ngayon. Sa binigay kasi na ni sistema ni Grab ngayon is marami rin kami ngayong mga long rides na tinatawag na may isang merchant na nag-a-accept siya ng mga long distance delivery. So ibig sabihin, yung dati namin kinukonsumo na full tank, dati may natitira pa yon. Ngayon, yung full tank mo na sabihin natin halagang 200, para lang mabuno mo yung buong maghapon mo nakita, magdadagdag ka pa nun, sabihin natin mag-a-add ka pa ng another 100 para lang makuha mo yung quota na tinatarget mo sa isang araw. So, ibig sabihin, tumaas na nga yung gas, hindi naman tumaas yung fare mo ng rider. Tapos, yung gas, umaangat yung halaga niya, pero yung kita mo, imbis na madagdagan, nababawasan. Kasi sa rider, sagot mo lahat gas, load, tapos yung, syempre, kakain ka pa. Diba? So, imbis na may maiuwi ka pa, wala ka nang iuwi. Yun na yung napakalaking challenge talaga na araw-araw kinakaharap ng isang rider. Tapos sasabihin lang ng Grab is nalulugi. Kaya ganun ang sistemang ini-implement nila ngayon. So, sa pamamagitan ng pagbo-voice out naman ng mga rider sa ginawa naming rally at saka unity ride, doon naman sasabihin nila na mali pa rin yung pag-engage namin na i-voice out sa management yung nararamdaman ng rider. Kaya doon na kami nagsimulang nagkasundo yung mga rider na kailangan na natin ng isang organisasyon na makakatulong sa atin na ma-voice out natin na pansinin talaga tayo ng Grab. Then, doon na pumasok ang rider sentro, ginabayan kami, sinamahan kami, na ma-organize namin ng maayos yung pagtatayo ng union. Sa ngayon, meron na kaming 4 na na chapter sa bansa. Ito ay ang Pampanga, CDO, Iloilo, at ang Gensan. Yun yung 4 na branch na meron na ngayon ng Rider Sentro na sumusuporta sa bawat delivery riders para magkaroon ng tamang collective bargaining agreement sa bawat platform para naman magkaroon kami ng insurance, protection, magkaroon kami ng tamang fair matrix na sinusunod. Hindi lang yung basta i-implement nila yung gusto nilang kita sa rider. Na sinasabi nilang hindi nila empleyado pero nakokontrol nila sa lahat, lalong-lalo na sa kinikita. Kaya po, yung pagkakaroon ng sentro sa ngayon, yun po yung naging malaking gabay sa amin para lumaban pa. Naisip din po ng mga riders na sa pagtatayo ng rider sentro, yun yung magiging way para mas lalo pa kaming magkaisa na ipaglaban yung naumpisahan namin na may panalo yung gusto naming makuha sa Grab company. And then, ang Rider Centro rin po yung tumatayong National Union para sa mga delivery riders. Siya po yung tumutulong na magbigay ng kaalaman sa pamamagitan ng paglulunsad ng mga BOS or Basic Orientation Seminars at BTU or Basic Trade Unionism para po ma-mobilize sa pamamagitan ng pag-rally at unity ride sa buong Pilipinas. Kalaunan po, nagkaroon din po kami ng iba't ibang chapter po, nagkaroon kami ng pagkakaisa na patuloy na maparami pa po yung mga members na makakasama po namin para po mas maging malakas pa po ang union na nasusuporta sa pinaglalaban po ng gig economy po sa ngayon. At ang legislative po namin sa ngayon ay ang nagtatrabaho rin yung pagkakaroon po ang legislative po ng Rider Centro is yung magkaroon po ng yung pagkakaroon ng technical working group sa Senate Committee kasama ang mga senador at congressman na may pinapasa po silang bill ngayon na kung saan makakapagprotekta po sa gig economy. Ang Rider Center rin po ay nagde-develop ng mga Charter of Rights na kung saan kasama po iyon sa bawat meeting na kung saan kasama po sila doon sa paggawa ng bill. And then, kasama rin po ang mga ILO sa Pilipinas na kung saan nakakapagbigay ng atensyon sa hinaharap sa ngayon, sa malaking hinaharap ng mga delivery riders sa Pilipinas upang maipanalo po yung mga kaso na kasalukuyang nasa NLRC. Gaya po ng kaso po namin sa ngayon na nung nakaraang Monday lang po, nag-position paper na po kami. Ako po at saka yung isang organizer na si Larson na nasa Angeles. Nung Monday po, nakapag-position paper na po kami sa NLRC na umaasa po kami na may maganda pong kalalabasan po yung decision ng arbiter para po sa case po namin sa ngayon. Kaya maraming salamat po.
Thank you, Rose. I just want to say, I think that your presentation, You framed the issues that the riders are facing and other platform workers across the Philippines. And then you talked about it as a campaign. And I have a feeling that's what we're going to hear throughout the rest of the group as well. You are targeting not only the companies locally and nationally around the issues that workers face, but you've also examined cases, legislation, and international mechanisms to additionally add pressure to the companies and to society at large to make the fundamental changes that platform and riding workers require. So thanks so much for that incredible presentation. We are going to move on, and we'll be coming back to questions for every participant as soon as everyone has given their presentations. So we'll next move on to Gulmayran Batarebekova, the platform driver from Kabilan Union, Kyrgyzstan. And I understand we have a collective action driving change for Kyrgyz app-based workers video to play. Let me just pose the questions that we're going to ask you first. And then we can show that video. So, women in Central Asia, as is true for women across the globe, face many barriers to traditional formal employment. A number of these barriers are grounded in patriarchal notions of women's role in the upkeep for the home. This is true in Central Asia, it's true in the US, it's true in Nigeria, it's true across the globe. As well as, so platform companies sell themselves as a vehicle for women to earn extra income in their downtime from their unpaid home-based work. But really, they must work longer hours than men to earn the same amount. And that's true on platforms. They still have their unpaid care work to attend to at home. So we'll be asking you to elaborate more on the challenges you faced as a woman in this work and what impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic have been in pushing women even deeper into the informal economy. Additionally, can you elaborate on how being a user on the platform on the basis of self-employment without a formal labor relationship, given the platform system's limited capacity to provide support, has uniquely impacted women in terms of safety and security? And what has Kabilan, the union, done to address issues of discrimination and harassment for drivers? So I posed several questions, and I understand this video that we'll watch first before you sort of share information poses a lot of interesting perspectives. So I'll hand it over to the tech folks.
Никто не защищает наши права, поэтому у нас есть объединение, профсоюз, который называется Kabilan.
Kabilan это носит оно отечественное название, это название животного, характерно носящего в себе характер упорства, лидерства, отважности, храбрости и добивающей справедливости. Что у нас ни больничных, у нас ничего не оплачивается, никаких страховок нету. А человек, вы сами знаете, он может и заболеть, может и похуже быть. Вот.
Если говорить о расходах именно машины, то практически все расходы, которые связаны с сферой такси, мы сами.
Это решится вопрос, не решится. Хотелось бы, чтобы вот сейчас опять бензин дорожает потихоньку, чтобы к осени еще и пересмотрели тариф хотя бы, не знаю, на стоимость посадки немножко, на 20 сумок или на...
Работа такси для женщин, она немного опасная. Уже волнуешься, думаешь, что за человек сейчас сядет в мою машину и куда я его отвезу.
Мне кажется, было бы лучше водителям, если бы их признали работниками, потому что у них на государственном уровне было бы защищены все права. За эти 1,5 года нам удалось много.
Конечно, есть надежда. Надеяться надо всегда на хорошее. И даст Бог, я думаю, с помощью профсоюза у нас все получится.
И эти улучшения, я думаю, не только для нас, для нашего дальнейшего поколения.
That's great. Gulmira, I will not take any more of your allocated time. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Всем еще раз здравствуйте. Рада с вами видеться. Мне очень приятно, что я попала в такую сферу, где мы можем высказать свои проблемы, свои надежды, свои цели, свои планы, где мы можем обменяться советами. Ну, как я заметила, очень много проблем, которые в других странах оказываются так же, как и у нас. Меня зовут Гульмарам Батырбекова. Я являюсь водителем женского такси. И помимо этого я еще практикуюсь в профсоюзе, ну, уже считаюсь как член профсоюза. Мы со своим председателем сейчас проделаем такие работы для улучшения сферы именно нашей работы. В основном вот именно сейчас поднимаем как бы женскую сторону, да. Ну, как человек, который знает всю специфику работы водителя, я бы хотела сегодня рассказать вам о всех таких трудностях, с которыми сталкиваются не только женщины, но и мужчины-таксисты. Ну, все водители, можно сказать, в целом, да. Также о конкретных трудностях, с которыми могут столкнуться также и женщины-водители. На сегодняшний день то, что, ну, возьмем вот этот контекст, допустим, про наш Кыргызстан, да, потому что мы как бы здесь работаем, мы живем, и эта среда нам очень хорошо знакома, да, это своя наша страна. Получается, что на сегодняшний день все платформы очень распространены во всем мире, да, получается. И так как вот мы идем на работу, допустим, да, заключаем договор, они берут нас на работу, и там, получается, сталкиваемся с теми проблемами, с которыми мы не должны сталкиваться. Мы должны идти как бы по договору, но там идет все по-разному. Получается, вот если на бумаге написано одно, то на самом деле делается другое, да. Вот, это получается проблема именно та сторона, где вот платформа как бы нас считают как бы самозанятыми, но на самом деле цены мы не можем ничего поставить и никак регулировать или контролировать, да, получается. Только остается одно название, что мы самозанятые как бы люди, да, именно вот в этой сфере такси. Но у нас очень много проблем, не только в этом получается. У нас проблемы бывают, когда вот именно по части дискриминации, да, когда вот женщина-водитель, многие почему-то... У меня вот в жизни был просто такой случай, когда вызвали такси, я приехала, и они попросили мужчину-водителя. Они сказали, что женщина-водитель, мы как бы не можем себя доверить своих детей или там себя, допустим, отвезти куда-то. Это была дальняя поездка, и мне пришлось отменить. И таких случаев у нас бывает почти у каждого водителя, именно у женщин, да. Ну, с одной стороны, вот они дают нам возможность работать, зарабатывать, приносить домой деньги, а с другой стороны, получается, возможности больших проблем, да, они несутся вместе с этим. Также здесь же, получается, как бы ущемляют наши трудовые права, да, именно по работе, да, то, что вот они вот не знают внутренних проблем, они вот просто на работу нас взяли, мы работаем, и они думают, что у нас все хорошо, да, на самом деле, как я сказала, у нас бывают моменты дискриминации, бывали случаи домогательства, потому что вот как ранее девушка сказала, у нас тоже есть случаи со смертельными исходами, это не только женщин, даже вот у нас вот несколько по статистике случаев, когда убивали и мужчин, да, чтобы отобрать машину, допустим, или там, может быть, не хотели оплачивать. Между ними произошла какая-то стычка, и были такие моменты. И так получается, что женщины, мы тоже с этим очень часто сталкиваемся. Например, я иногда вот с собой даже, верите, иногда беру газовый баллончик, допустим, либо электрошокер. Это как бы для самозащиты. Просто чтобы нормально доработать свою смену и вернуться домой в целости и сохранности. Эти же платформы, например, которые вот у нас в Кыргызстане считают себя работодателями, между ними и между нами получается вроде как небольшое расстояние, но они это не контролируют. Мы должны самосохраняться, мы должны сами заниматься своей самозанятостью. Ну, платформа, например, регулирует права и обязанности каждого водителя, да, так же, как вправе устанавливать определенные критерии там, к транспортному средству, например, да, чтобы все было как бы чисто, аккуратно, все они от нас требуют, но взаимоотдачи, получается, у нас нету. Что еще хотела бы сказать, что получается, вот если, допустим, мы откажемся от заказа, то нас вводят в черный список, и, получается, мы можем остаться без заработка. Это тоже, получается, для нас глобальная проблема, потому что женщины в Кыргызстане, как ранее говорили, это хранительница очага. Вообще женщины, по сути, не должны работать. Да? У нас, получается, менталитет, и у нас контингент такой, что женщина должна сидеть дома, обучать детей, помогать там в школе, обучать домашним делам. Но так как сейчас вот времена немного поменялись, и становится вообще жить трудно, поэтому безвыходно, получается, мы работаем. Но данная практика может вывести водителя из работы, да, вот именно касаемо черного списка, да, когда вот они блокируют аккаунт, например, или просто-напросто, я не знаю, может быть, какие-то веские причины могут быть причины, например, самое обидное, когда они это как бы обоюдно не смотрят, они смотрят со своей стороны. Вот если клиент пришел, пожаловался, все, вы уже считаете в черном списке. И опять этот человек уже, чтобы восстановиться на работу, там нужно будет опять пройти много препятствий. Но здесь мы видим трудовые отношения между водителями и платформой, которые она не хочет признавать, а права водителей продолжают нарушаться. Также, когда человек работает без официальных трудовых отношений, у него нет защиты, и он остается один на один со своими проблемами, которые решить очень тяжело самому одному. И вот в таких случаях, получается, лично вот из моего жизненного опыта, не только из моего, у нас в команде 30 женщин, которые сталкивались с этими проблемами очень часто, и получается, вот каким-то образом мы попали в профсоюз, да, получается. Наша знакомая одна вступила, и она меня пригласила, и там я поняла, что в профсоюзе, оказывается, мы не знаем свои права, мы не знаем вообще, как нужно правильно работать, как нужно защищать свои права. Но получается, и сейчас по практике мы обучаемся, да, чтобы развить себя лучше. Получается, в профсоюзе, когда мы вступили именно в профсоюз на этот наш, мы сначала дали профсоюзу на это название, да, мы назвали его Кабылан. Мы назвали его почему так? Потому что мы хотели, чтобы наш Кабылан процветал. И Кабылан это с нашего русского языка переводится это как зверь, который ни с кем не сравнится, сильный по характеру, стойкий, в общем, лидер. Вот, поэтому мы хотим, сейчас вот объединяем всех наших водителей в Кыргызстане, независимо, мы дискриминацию не делаем, пусть это будет мужчина, пусть он будет старше возрастом, пусть он будет младше, но мы хотим всех объединить и как бы утвердиться, и тверже стоять на ногах, и чтобы мы могли помочь тем же людям, которые сталкиваются с такими проблемами, как с нашими, да, потому что вот если сказать вот до пандемии, да, до коронавируса у нас были рабочие места, у нас все как бы все потихоньку было, но в другой сфере, да, допустим, как я и говорила ранее, что я работала в других сферах. Получается, вот когда мы уже начали работать в такси, буквально где-то мы 2 года проработали, и, получается, все закрылось, все остались безработными. Это очень сильно повлияло на экономики нашей страны, а также бюджет каждой семьи, да, можно сказать. Потому что у нас, у таксистов считается, это как неформальная занятость. У нас нету ни запасов, у нас нету ни страховок, у нас нет соцпакетов, у нас ничего, нету вот то, что должно как бы прилагаться, как в других странах для водителей, да. Поэтому мы сейчас вот работаем над тем, чтобы достучаться до правительства, чтобы нас признали уже официальными работниками, чтобы у нас были какие-то вот в дальнейшем, в будущем, да, чтобы у нас пенсия была, чтобы могли что-то оставить своим детям, как бы. Ну и, конечно, в этой жизни, чтобы у нас было как бы достаток и, как сказать, ну, запас какой-то, да, чтобы в жизни у нас был. Но в профсоюзе мы работаем с разными людьми, и встречаются разные водители, и когда мы слушаем, сначала мы как бы проводим информацию, мы их информируем о том, что у нас есть вот такой вот профсоюз, вот мы недавно открылись, пожалуйста, вступайте к нам. И мы сначала информируем, да, человека, что такое профсоюз, как он работает, потому что я тоже также вошла в этот профсоюз, не только я, 30 женщин, которые мы сейчас еще идем шагом за шагом, призываем. Мы точно так же пришли и получили взаимоподдержку, получили. Мы сами для себя построили как бы стратегию, да, первоначальную, как правильно поступить. И вот сейчас вот на данное время наш Хаблан уже более... Как? Да-да-да. Ну вот, как я поняла, как я вот коротко хочу сказать, у нас нет третьей стороны, которая могла бы оценить эту ситуацию как бы беспристрастно именно в нашей работе, да. Конечно, если бы трудовые отношения с работодателем у нас бы, если бы мы знали о своих обязанностях и обязанности пассажира, то как бы могли бы знать о том, что им положено делать, не могли бы это, мы могли бы отстоять свои права в случае возникновения конфликтов, да, как-то все это разрешить. Вот, ну, про профсоюз я уже вот сказала, про пандемию тоже как бы прошлась. И хочется сказать, что в будущем мы верим и надеемся, что мы достучимся и что у нас будет лучше этот прогресс и рост. Но в нашем профсоюзе сейчас вот уже более 4 членов уже есть, и мы еще все призываем, чтобы помогать людям, а также поднимать свой уровень, да. Также мы проводим сейчас как бы уроки этики, уроки, как вести себя правильно. Ну, мы хотим выйти на культурный уровень, да, как можно сказать, коротко и ясно. Поэтому я думаю, что, смотря на мир, как вот развиваются другие, я думаю, что у нас получится. Ну, наверное, все.
Thank you, Gulmayran. I feel like you touched on so many issues that that platform workers face, and I think some universal issues around COVID-19, the cost of living, and I just wanted to highlight one thing. You mentioned blacklisting, and we have seen this across the globe. And also, it's a universal method for platform companies and a tactic that the employers have used against trade unionists for more than 150 years, and surely even more than that. But with technology, it's so much easier for the platform companies to impose upon workers with technology and the tactics that they can use with their freedom of global capital flow. So thanks for highlighting that. The video was incredible. I know we've got some questions coming in, but we've noted them and we'll get to them in a moment. Next, we're going to move on to Ayubami from Lagos, Nigeria. Again, an app-based driver and a member of Amalgamated Union of App-Based Transport Workers of Nigeria. We also have a video here. It's called High Risk for Low Wages, the Nigeria Rideshare Drivers Fight for Their Rights. And I just want to put the questions out there that we will pose to you so you can think about those and answer after the video plays. So, Ayubami, how can strengthening labor protections and meaningfully including workers in organizing efforts, advanced decent work for gig workers? And how do you feel that your union is addressing those issues of gender-based violence and harassment that women face on the job, and more broadly? So I'll hand it over to you, Ayobami, and the video to play.
My name is Lawal Ayobami. I reside in Lagos, Nigeria. I'm a mother of 3 and I'm an hab driver. The money I earn from driving does not really sustain my needs. And if you ask every driver out there, they will tell you that. I work 15 to 18 hours a day. Long hours working is actually not safe for drivers. That is why you see in the news that a driver had an accident. It's because of fatigue, because there is no time to rest. Safety on the hab is not guaranteed. I don't feel safe driving, especially as a lady. You know, we're actually the prey here. They see us as weaker vessels, you know, easy to catch and everything. Every trip is actually a risk to your life. Every driver to have a right as a worker, not a contractor, as you know, app-based people are saying. So all these things are what we and my union actually is working towards, for us to have a good working environment. It's not easy for us. We're just doing this to keep body and soul together.
Ayobami, it's over to you.
Okay, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. My name is Lawal Ayobami, like I was introduced. And I'm happy to be here. Like, it's an honor to be part of this great program. I'm happy to also hear from my sisters all around the world. From what I can put together, we are facing the same challenge and we pray it can get better. Okay, if I hear a question well, you said, how can we strengthen labor protection and meaningfully include workers in organizing efforts to advance decent work for gig workers? First thing first, I'll congratulate us in Lagos, Nigeria, that we are able to get a union working for ourselves now. After so long time, we've been fighting for it. Over 7 years now. And, over 2 years, we've been fighting to have a union. And, glory be to God, we have one now. And we're very sure that this will be a new dispensation for us. So gig economy is here to stay. And the earlier the app company know that, the better. And the earlier they know we need to have a good organizing, to have a good working condition for drivers, the better. I've had my sister speak, and it's so funny that we are facing the same challenges. And how can we, prefer solution to this is to have a working union, as I've said earlier. And we need to make, like where we are now, we need merchants from we need, what are they called now? The legislative, we need the technology company, and we need the drivers. We need us to come together and prefer solution, create a solution that will benefit all of us. And how do we do that? The incentive needs to be changed. The price mechanism, they are not favoring us, the driver. We have increase in fuel prices. It doesn't change our fare. We have increase in spare parts in the market. It doesn't change our fare. Drivers are the ones solely putting resources together to be online. We are, like I used to tell I'll be using some terms here that will be understood by my fellow Nigerians. Pardon me for that. But we have, like I used to call the app company, I call them Agbero. Agbero in my language means a motor boy. They only give us people to convey around, to carry around. I bring my resources together. I bring the car, worth millions of naira. I have the car to be in good working condition. I take it to your company to register. I pay for inspecting my car and all this. It doesn't come free. And yet you're not giving me good incentive to, that will make sense to the service I'm rendering. And for a period of time, you see that some drivers that come online, maybe in a period of 2 years, you see them, they don't have a car anymore. The reason is not far-fetched. What they do is just to sustain themselves for a period of time. They're working. After using a car for like 2-3 years, and it's not well maintained, it's not as if the driver didn't want to maintain the car. It is because the money he or she is getting is not in any way compensating that service, which will make the driver to be able to maintain the car. The cost of food in the market is high. We all know that. And yet we're still fighting to have a good fare. So the app companies should do better in bringing up these prices. And I'm sure with this union that we have now, we'll be able to have a good reasoning, come to a round table, and we'll be able to talk about this. So we all can have a good working environment. Without we, the drivers, like we used to say, there won't be an app company. Without us, they can't be there. We need ourselves to work out. We need ourselves to make this sector a booming one. And without drivers, the app company won't function. And this will make other app companies that are coming on board see the sector as where they can just come and milk us dry and be making money without the driver earning. As a driver, as a woman, I'm supposed to have a leverage. I'm supposed to be encouraged to work. We all know this work. In fact, everybody will be like, oh, hey, woman, you're doing this. How are you keeping up? How are you coping? This is a man's job. I hear that every day. But yet, I still keep my hope high. I still work and make money. So we need them to encourage us. At this point, we know that everything we do is on algorithm, and they should have data for all drivers they have. They should be able to identify that they have women that drive and they have men that drive. As a woman, I'm supposed to be treated specially. I'm not trying to be biased, but pardon my gender. You're supposed to give us a leverage. Like if I've done a particular trip in a year or two, it should be put on a pedestal that, oh, this is a 5-star driver, or this is however they want to do it. But regardless, women should be put on a leverage that will make other women want to come on board. Not when we work, and we even get home, we won't be able to take care of the home. We are home mothers here. And believe me, we know that to keep a home front is not easy. Talk more of being a mother that will go out there, work for a couple of hours, come back without even saying the reason you've been out. Because at the time when you finish working, you can't even see the money you went to work for. So it's stressful enough for us, and we need a good working environment. And that is why we are calling this power-based sector to come together with us. Let them hear us. Let them know where they need to impute some certain people, like bring in machineries that will work for what we are asking them. We are not asking for too much. We are only asking that this pays, let me work for little hours and be able to take something home. Let me be able to work where I want to work. Now, when you work on the app, you can't even determine your location. You can't put yourself to a particular location. And if you try to select your trip, they can block you. Just like I've heard from one of my sisters that she has been blocked illegally. These are the things. At times, I don't feel like walking. I don't feel like driving to a far distance. I only want to work within my environment. So maybe because I want to pick my children in school and I need to make money. Okay, let me do little trip around here and be able to meet up with my children. Or no, they will just give you a trip that suits them at any time. And if you decline, it will affect your driver's score. And as your driver's score comes down, there's possibility of you getting blocked on the app. So they need to understand that this is not sustainable. It is not sustainable to penalize workers for choosing what they want to do or how they want to do it. It is not our doing that we are just in this sector. It is because our economy has put us in this position. So we're trying to make a living, being a mother, running an home front. So when we talk about them giving us a better working environment so that the gig economy can work, these are the things that we look out to. When we work, when we bring people, like we have a union now, let them try to segregate the union in the way that when a new person wants to come online, like I want to start driving now, let the app company know that there is a union working. They should be able to tell any new person coming in to first of all go and register under the union, because as a union we need a database to work. Let them be able to say, this is your union. Have you registered? You have the ID card? Okay, fine. Come and register. Come online. Come for your inspection. That way, when we pass information, people will be able to hear us. Because most time when we have problem and we want to put out information out there, because we have different association and this one will be calling for strike, this will call for this, there is no uniformity. So that way we don't get to pass information in one voice. But if the RBS recognize that there's a union, and when we pass an information, it gets across to everybody. That way we'll be able to regularize this sector. Things will come easily for us. Even the RBS they won't have to deal with people individually. They know they are dealing with a section of this particular people. So now, when we talk about harassment in this sector, you said, how is my union going to address the problem of harassment? And it's a lot of work, but we thank God that we're getting close. Like here in Nigeria, we have another association called Ladies on Wheel Association of Nigeria. It is just for women that drive. So in that union, the association, sorry, we are able to bring women that drive under one umbrella. So that way, when there is any issue or matter arise, maybe one of the female driver is being attacked, we get that information immediately and we rally around to solve the problem. We have series of occurrence that we are able to go and rescue such person because we are under association. So now that we have a union, it will even be of good help because right now we are segmenting the union. We are going to have the state chapter, we're going to have local government chapter, we're going to have series. So when you have any issues around, you'll be able to call the next person that is close to you that, oh, please, I'm at several places, somebody's trying to, harass me here, or somebody just harassed me, just got attacked, just got that. We'll be able to find solution and rally around such person. Moving forward, we'll be able to talk on more on every other thing, but right now I think my time is up, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Ayabami. I think you covered so many things. I just want to highlight a couple. One is highlighting that you all spent 7 years building your organization and have a nationally registered union. That's a big deal. I think that most of the folks on this call have finally reached registered, recognized unions, but those of you who have not, it's still a huge undertaking when you're in the formal sector, but when you're in the informal sector and with companies that have built their entire business model to fundamentally deny that the workers are in fact workers and want to perpetuate a message of self-employment and independent contractors, which is all a lie. You all are building those unions in order to have those sort of national structures and recognition. So when you're pushing for the solutions that you've articulated, the unions and the workers' organizations are able to make those connections when speaking with government and companies about how fundamental it is for working people to make a fair wage and to have sort of the fundamentals within society, that you're the core of the society. That's how you create a sustainable economy and society, is having working people making a decent wage and a decent living. So thank you for highlighting the power of your union to integrate that into the lives of the working people. And we have much more to dive into. So let us move on to Luz Miriam. I'm going to go straight into questions to you. We wanted to pose a question: what policies do you think can help regulate the technologies? And how do you think platforms, their design, their algorithms are preventing workers from exercising their labor rights and protections? And, many cases preventing workers from earning just the minimum wage without increased repercussions. Could you share with us why the labor movement sees this as a struggle for a fundamental struggle for labor? Over to you, Luz Miriam.
Bueno, las políticas que pueden ayudar a regular las tecnologías en Colombia sería la seguridad y salud en el trabajo, ya que nuestra labor la realizamos en el espacio público. Creería que una de las más importantes es la transparencia algorítmica, puesto que dichas empresas se escudan detrás del supuesto algoritmo, queriéndonos hacer creer que este se maneja solo, lo que todos sabemos que no es verdad. Siempre hay alguien detrás manejando el supuesto algoritmo. También otra de las políticas sería garantizar el debido proceso, ya que dichas empresas no nos dan la oportunidad de defendernos ante deudas que no son impuestas, deudas injustificadas que nos colocan cada vez que tenemos algún inconveniente con un pedido. los bloqueos temporales y permanentes sin ninguna justificación. No hay políticas diferenciales y de género tampoco de violencia VG. La manera en que las plataformas, su diseño y sus algoritmos obstaculizan el ejercicio de los derechos y protecciones laborales de los trabajadores y en muchos casos no permiten que ganen el salario mínimo sin repercusiones. Las plataformas y sus algoritmos son quienes toman todas las decisiones en cuanto al valor del pedido, la distancia, absolutamente todas las decisiones. Nosotros, los repartidores, no tenemos la oportunidad de escoger nuestro pedido y menos aún asignarle un valor a nuestro trabajo. También es quien decide este supuesto algoritmo, también decide los bloqueos temporales o permanentes a los repartidores. Esto es un obstáculo grandísimo para que nosotros los trabajadores logremos en muchas ocasiones siquiera devengar el salario mínimo. ¿Por qué? Porque esos bloqueos temporales que son por horas, por días, no nos permiten trabajar en ese lapso de tiempo, entonces no logramos generar los suficientes ingresos. Los pedidos también nos los reportan pues a muy bajo precio, con unas distancias bastante excesivas, y eso también nos perjudica a la hora de siquiera ganar un salario mínimo. Y un salario mínimo que tampoco es justo porque nosotros no tenemos prestaciones sociales de ninguna clase, no tenemos salud, seguridad social, de nuestro bolsillo, de ese supuesto salario mínimo que bregamos a sacar, tenemos que pagar también plan de datos, maletas, pagar los gastos de la moto, del vehículo, llámese bicicleta, llámese moto, llámese carro, el SOA, todo esto que genera el vehículo lo pagamos de nuestro bolsillo. Entonces, por eso para nosotros es bastante complicado siquiera generar el salario mínimo. Y las personas que lo logran o logran sacar algo más es porque tienen largas jornadas de trabajo, como son de 12, 14, 16 horas. Y eso lo hacen en la gran mayoría el personal migrante, ya que en Colombia el 80% de los repartidores, de las y los repartidores, son personas migrantes, en especial de Venezuela. Entonces ellos tienen que trabajar largas horas porque no solo tienen que sostenerse en Colombia, sino que también tienen que sostener a sus familias en su respectivo país. Esa es una de las grandes, esos son de los grandes obstáculos que nosotros tenemos aquí en Colombia para ganar siquiera el salario mínimo. El movimiento laboral ve esto como una lucha por el trabajo. Claro que sí. Desde el movimiento sindical lo vemos como una lucha por el trabajo porque no hay derechos laborales en este sector, puesto que tenemos la prestación personal del servicio, estamos subordinados y también recibimos una remuneración por este trabajo. Y aún así no somos reconocidos como trabajadores y menos aún no contamos con las garantías laborales que tiene todo trabajador, independiente del tipo de contrato. Estamos firmemente convencidos que desde nuestra organización podemos crear incidencia para generar un trabajo digno en Colombia, en el sector de reparto. Y también desde acá podemos luchar y seguimos luchando, lo estamos haciendo, por la dignificación del trabajo de la mujer, ya que vemos que no solo en Colombia, sino a nivel mundial, nosotras las mujeres siempre somos más precarizadas y también más vulnerables ante este trabajo. Sufrimos de acoso callejero, sufrimos acoso por los mismos clientes, por nuestros compañeros, no tenemos seguridad vial. En muchas ocasiones los hombres, por el hecho de ser nosotras mujeres, no les interesa mandarnos el carro, empujarnos, pitarnos al pie para asustarnos. Entonces, Esto sabemos que es a nivel mundial. Las mujeres siempre hemos sido precarizadas y no nos han hecho visibles, pero estamos nosotras en este momento, todo el mundo entero estamos trabajando para que nuestro trabajo, nuestras labores de cuidado y como mujeres seamos tratadas con dignidad. Muchas gracias a todos ustedes.
Louis, Miriam, thank you. I was just thinking about how what you've just said really coincides with my sort of wrap-up comments I had previously planned, but I wanted to highlight some of the points that you made. You said what everyone else has said as well, that the companies are making 100% of the decisions. So how can you be an informal, or how can you be self-employed if a company for which you work makes 100% of decisions and the workers have no recourse or input? That is an overarching theme I think we've seen. They're clearly employers in all of the contexts that we've heard today. I also wanted to point out some of the points you made. Who is writing those algorithms that are blocking people and stopping people from working? Let's note the biases that are integrated into the very structure of the applications as they've been written. When you talked about the unsustainable hours and the structure we have now, we heard that from Ayubami. We heard that from all of the panelists today. There's really no difference in the grinding nature of this work as there was in the previous industrial revolution, with when we saw people working on enormous plantations, huge factories with no regulations in place. And so you in fact are on the front lines of shifting this future of work, this technology driven industrial revolution, to shift that narrative, to shift the perspective that working 14, 16, 18 hours is even remotely sustainable or appropriate for us in the 21st century. So thank you, Luz Miriam, for that. I only have a few minutes to summarize, and then we want to open it up so that you all can have a chance to ask questions. I think I've driven this home plenty. I think all of the issues of oppressive working conditions that we've discussed are compounded with the intersecting identities that platform workers often have. We're talking about women and migrants, people with ethnic, linguistic, racial minority identities, informal workers, the list goes on. You know, there are academics, politicians, policy specialists, lawyers, and yes, union leaders speaking up about this work all over the place, and making and really putting their voices forward. And they're involved in the struggle for platform workers, for women. And on the capital side of things, we have venture capitalists, CEOs, investors, programmers, the list goes on. And the majority of all of those people on the side of advocating for platform workers and on the side of capital is most of them are men. So creating a space for women to highlight their lived experiences and reminding us that those in the margins have to be heard. We're talking about a fundamental change to labor laws, to regulations around work, to attitudes about informal work when we're addressing the issues of the future of work, and in the inclusion of social protections. This is big stuff. So when we're talking about including social protections for the informal economies in economies that are 80% of the working population is informal, how many of the people in the room and making input are women or other marginalized people? I'm glad, I know that I'm sharing the obvious to this group, that you're likely on this side. I'm sure the panelists are passionate about all of this, but I wanted to drive it home as summary. And though there is a number of women involved in locally based platform work, though that number might be small as far as those employed. It means that a marginalized voice must be purposefully included in the conversation, must purposefully be lifted up and space made for and heard and included in the power and decision making. Not a single law can be made without women being involved. Not a single union can be formed without women front and center in the leadership roles. And we've seen many platform organizations say that there's nothing for us without that, us. So let's hope that this will be true as we move forward within our own union organizations and legislation shifts. So that's my hope for you. Thank you so much for your insightful panel discussion. And I want to we're going to begin having the question and answer section. And so you may participate in any language that you like by typing your questions. The Pari, my colleague, will read the question out loud so we can have that live interpretation in all of the languages for the question that is being asked. The interpreters, I hope you could monitor the chat, keep an eye out. And when there are comments in other languages, comment those into other languages into English. And I will attempt to direct it at the appropriate panelists. So Pari, if you want to lead the question asking, I'm happy to direct the questions to the right panelists.
Thank you very much, Emily. I'm going to begin by reading the questions and comments that are in the Q&A, but the chat will also be disabled in just a minute. We have first a comment from Carolina Evia. She has left the comment in Spanish as well. She says, good morning and greetings from Ecuador. The Union by Branch Front of the Workers of Digital Platforms of Ecuador, FREN-AP, has started a fight in legal strategy. We have influenced the National Assembly of Ecuador, where we are already waiting for the report of the second debate, and also a complaint at the ILO. In April, an ILO commission will come to Ecuador, and we are currently doing field work. We are already affiliated with 710 workers. The exploitation is global, and the struggle is international. She has left her contact information, as well as a link to a newsletter, a Twitter link, an Instagram link. Carolina, sister, we thank you, and we are with you in the struggle. Urge everybody else to take a look at the information that she's left. We had next a question from Chloe Cranston that I'm going to read out loud. Chloe may have left. She said she had to go, but I'm going to read it in case anyone wants to respond. Do any of the platforms create situations where the drivers, gig workers, risk falling into debt due to the various issues, for example, having to pay upfront for the cars, petrol, the blacklisting threats, etc.? I'm going to pause there.
I recall Ayubami bringing up this issue at some point. Ayubami, would you like to answer that question? If anyone else has also had that experience, please let me know, and I'm happy to pass the torch to you. Ayubami, are you available?
Yes, I am. But I need to know what the question is.
Sure, Pari, do you want to go ahead?
Yes, the question is, do any of the platforms create situations where the drivers risk falling into debt due to the various issues? For example, having to pay upfront for the cars or petrol, the blacklisting threats, etc.
Yeah, they don't. It is actually, that is the policy actually. Before you can come online, before you can be a driver, you are coming with your car, and the car has to be of standard. The AC must be chilling. The car must be in good condition. and it must meet all their terms and regulations. So we didn't create that for ourselves. They created it. It is their policy. You have to have a working ID card. You have to have, there are some other things that you need to get for coming. That doesn't come cheap. You have to still go and pay for it. And also doing their own inspection. Even after doing the normal federal inspection for your car, that is, that is a general one. You still have to inspect your car in their own platform to be able to come online. So it is all they are doing, it is all their rules. And that is why we are saying, if you call us independent contractor, then we should be able to come in and make rules and regulations. You should not push us around. You should not be the one to tell us when to work, what amount to take, and so on and so forth. So the regulation is theirs. We are just working, and that's why we want to be addressed as workers, so we can have access to all the benefits that comes to be a worker, to be called a worker. Actually. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Ayobami. Does any other panelist wish to speak on the questions of debt? I know that Chloe had asked that question of Rose, who I believe responded, but had to leave.
I think it's helpful if I read Rose's response for everyone.
That would be great. Thank you.
Rose wrote, in the Philippines, Grab has Grab Loan, which they give to the drivers through the app. Drivers can loan around 45,000 Philippine pesos, a little less than $1,000. Before, loan payments were made daily for a short period of time, with only a small interest rate. Now they change the system, letting drivers take loan payment schemes for longer periods of time with higher interest rates. Drivers are also allowed to take out new loans, even with existing loans. This causes drivers to have a hard time paying. Grab will also suspend drivers' accounts if they cannot pay their loans on time. When your account becomes suspended, interest rates increase. Drivers argue, why will Grab suspend their drivers? Now they will have a harder time paying the loans. Why also will Grab give drivers with existing loans more loans?
Wow. Thank you. Sometimes summarizing what the platform companies are willing to do can really be exhausting. All right, do we have any other discussions around this particular issue? There was one other comment perhaps, or it looks like Noor would like to answer this.
No, I will go ahead and read. Chloe
Okay.
had to leave, and she left her contact information in the Q&A. I'll just read it out loud. c.cranston@antislavery.org. If anyone else has more to add on this debt issue, they are interested in hearing more. It sounds like the cost of the vehicle also may drive debt. And she clarified further that she is the head of thematic advocacy at Anti-Slavery International, who works closely with Solidarity Center on other issues. And that is the final comment on that particular topic.
Super.
I'm just going to go ahead and read the comment from Jody Evans. Jody, thank you for joining. Who wrote that she works for the Global Union Federation of Transport Workers, ITF. She leads the gender work, and it's brilliant to be hearing from women gig workers and union leaders. She asks, I wonder if any of our speakers are aware of our organization and that we are active in the gig economy. They are always looking to build women's voices in this overwhelmingly male space. She's aware that some established unions could see new gig unions as a threat and not an act.
Great. Thank you. I would like to put this to, I think there's an interesting question at the very end that she mentioned about the threat, not an ally. I know, Gulmayran, perhaps your organization, I know, has sort of been working closely with an established union, and perhaps Luz Miriam, you have had a different experience. So I wonder if we could, both of you could discuss this. All right, Gulamaran, we'll hand it to you first, and then Luz Miriam, if you could answer after her.
Можно еще раз вопрос?
Sí. Luz Miriam?
I'll mention, so the first portion of the discussion from Jody was around the International Transport Federation, you all knowing about the organization and that kind of thing. But the question she poses is, you know, there are some established unions may view new platform worker unions as a threat rather than an ally, particularly when the narrative is around informal workers. So just wanted to ask sort of how your organization has addressed, you know, building itself and integrating into the mainstream union movement.
Угу. Можно, да, отвечать? Ага.
Bueno.
Ну, смотрите, угроза реальная, она немножко уже появилась. Вот с основания нашего профсоюза нам помогают другие профсоюзы, получается, советами. И были угрозы, например, когда мы в городе проводили автопробеги, когда вот это иностранные компании, когда у нас внедрились в Кыргызстан, и когда они уже обосновались, и вначале как бы у них было все подешевле, а потом, когда они уже устоялись, они уже начали все завышать, и водителям это, конечно, не понравилось. И мы в таких моментах мы проводили в городе, вот мы уже масштабно автопробеги, где уже нам помогали сами уже депутаты, можно сказать. Слышно? Что-то отключилось. Да-да-да. Вот нам помогали сами депутаты, мэрия города нас поддерживала, чтобы показать, что именно вот в сфере такси, что работа это очень важная для нас. Это была вот действительно угроза, потому что многие платформы иногда, когда были такие моменты, они пошли к нам навстречу. Например, это так же, как сказать, можно, они подняли посадку в тарифе, да, например, где-то добавили там надбавки, доплаты по работе в городе. Ну, вот такие, в таких моментах мы, получается, как бы себе сделали сами себе поддержку, да, и также мы как бы стали уже более знамениты, можно сказать, как бы популярны, они уже начали нас узнавать, и отношение уже немножко поменялось. Но сейчас вот мы совместно работаем с депутатами, скоро будем уже предлагать это изменение в законе, чтобы нас, чтобы нас именно водители признали официальными работниками. Вот. Также вот нам федерация очень хорошо помогает, вот центры солидарности. У нас еще есть помимо этого еще другие профсоюзы, которые нас поддерживают в наших, вот именно в таких проблемах, можно сказать, когда финансово, когда морально, ну вот так вот.
Thank you, Gulmayran. Luz Miriam, would you like to comment on the experience of building the organization and relating to the mainstream labor movement? Perhaps not, and that's not a problem. We have two more questions, unless I'm missing something in interpretation, Pari.
Nope, I'm just going to go to a question. Thanks for great presentations. Several of the speakers mentioned data and algorithms. How far do they think these affect discrimination against women workers? And how far do ordinary platform workers think about the issues around data and algorithms? Thank you, Victor.
So we've heard from Golimaran just a moment ago. Luz Miriam or Ayubami, would either of you like to answer that question? So the question is around data. Luz Miriam, go ahead.
Bueno, los datos, ¿en qué aspecto? ¿Me puedes explicar, por favor? Es que estamos también aquí en Colombia en la reunión, en una reunión en otro evento de mujeres, entonces me toca estar acá y allá. Qué pena con ustedes.
Sure. Sorry, so the question was around, we've been talking about data and algorithms and how this all plays into the workers gaining access to their work and then also monitoring them. So how do you think this affects discrimination against women? And also, what do you think about the issues around data and algorithms broadly affecting workers' rights and ability to do their jobs?
Bueno, esto es bastante complejo y sé también que todas las empresas de plataformas a nivel mundial se escudan en el determinado, en el llamado algoritmo. En Colombia nos hacen creer y quieren hacer creer a todo el mundo, inclusive a nuestro gobierno, que el algoritmo se maneja solo, que él es el que dicta todos los parámetros y todas las condiciones con las que trabajamos, lo cual no es cierto. Todos sabemos que este algoritmo no se maneja solo, que siempre hay una persona detrás de ellos programándolo y nos afecta bastante. ¿Por qué? Porque nos están dando órdenes por medio de este supuesto algoritmo constantemente. Nos afecta a las mujeres. ¿Por qué? Porque nosotras no tenemos derecho a escoger nuestros pedidos, a escoger el valor de nuestros pedidos, es nuestras ganancias, nuestro recorrido, e inclusive lo más inconveniente, lo más terrible es que nos toca aceptar pedidos inclusive para zonas de alto riesgo. Tenemos compañeras que han sufrido ataques, que las han atracado, les han robado su vehículo con el que trabajan, su celular, hasta el pedido, porque realmente, primero, cuando nos informan del pedido, jamás nos dan la dirección de entrega. Sencillamente dicen, por decir algo, son 4.7 kilómetros, para lo cual les vamos a pagar 3.000 pesos, pero no vemos la dirección a donde se dirige. Entonces, ¿qué pasa? Llegamos, apenas tomamos el pedido, nos damos cuenta que va para una zona insegura, pero no lo podemos ya rechazar. Tenemos que llevarlo, porque esto nos trae las consecuencias de respectivos bloqueos. En Colombia existen bloqueos por, como les dije anteriormente, hay bloqueos de 2, 3 horas e inclusive días. Y esto nos afecta a todos. La verdad, ese dichoso algoritmo fue el invento que ellos, para ellos resultó el invento maravilloso, detrás del que todos se escudan y que además nadie sabe cómo funciona. Nosotros creemos firmemente que todas las leyes a nivel mundial deben ir encabezadas también a hacer una ley donde haya transparencia algorítmica. Esto es lo que las empresas no quieren. No quieren que haya una ley, no quieren que se regularicen, no quieren dar a conocer cómo manejan ese algoritmo. Es una trampa. Yo pienso que esa es una trampa de las empresas que los ponen a los trabajadores. Eso cada vez nos ha llevado más a la precarización laboral. En Colombia es bastante complicado. Llevo 6 años trabajando como domiciliaria repartidora Y en su comienzo, cuando empecé a trabajar en plataformas, el pedido mínimo era de 3.500 de lunes a viernes, y eso el pedido mínimo quiere decir distancias hasta de 2 kilómetros. Hoy, 6 años después, me pagan 2.000 pesos el pedido mínimo. O sea, a nosotros no nos ha, según ellos, no nos ha subido nada. Lo contrario, el costo de vida, el costo de nuestros vehículos, el mantenimiento de nuestros vehículos, el plan de datos, la dotación, porque esto también corre por nuestra cuenta, según ellos ha bajado. Porque si hace 3 años era de 3.500 y hoy en día es de 2.000, entonces según ellos todo ha bajado. Y nosotros no recibimos en absoluto, absolutamente nada de parte de la plataforma. Nosotros no tenemos ayuda ni una ARL ni un seguro porque dicen que tenemos un seguro, un supuesto seguro. Pero cuando queremos acudir a él nos ponen miles de trabas y realmente nunca accedemos a ese pago de seguro. Las supuestas incapacidades que nos da ese seguro, que esa póliza que ellos, según nos tienen, nos cubre hasta después de tener 6 meses de incapacidad. O sea que si yo tengo 2 meses, 3 meses, no tengo derecho a ese dichoso seguro. No lo recibimos de ninguna manera y siempre nos ponen trabas. Realmente sí, el trabajo de plataformas digitales está bien precarizado. Veo no solo en Colombia, por eso es que esta lucha debe ser internacional, porque el trabajo nuestro es internacional. Nosotros los trabajadores de plataformas digitales metimos el pecho en la pandemia. Fuimos las personas que estuvimos a cargo de la alimentación, de los medicamentos, de absolutamente todas las personas que tuvieron que quedarse en casa. No sé si en sus países pasó lo mismo que en Colombia, que nos llamaron héroes. Fuimos los héroes de la pandemia. Me pregunto yo, ¿cómo trata cada país a los héroes de su país? En Colombia nos trataron muy mal. A nosotros jamás llegó alguien a decir, ¿cómo están ustedes psicológicamente? ¿Cómo se sienten ustedes en la calle trabajando mientras los demás están encerrados? ¿Cómo es su trabajo? Anímicamente, ¿cómo está? ¿Ustedes qué les pasó? ¿Necesitan algo? Yo creo que ninguno de los países hicieron eso por nosotros, los que pusimos el pecho en todo momento, los llamados héroes. En Colombia o en todos los países las personas se quedaron encerradas y post pandemia todo el mundo habla de los efectos que le ha causado a las personas que estuvieron encerradas, los efectos que les causó la pandemia. Pero alguna de ustedes o alguno de nosotros ha escuchado los efectos que tuvo la pandemia en las personas de reparto, en los que estuvimos en la calle viendo tantas cosas. No sé ustedes, pero en lo personal fue muy triste. Yo trabajé toda la pandemia y estar uno en las calles fue bastante traumático, porque el ambiente de por sí se sentía pesado, se sentía un ambiente de tristeza, de desolación. ¿Y qué dicen ustedes cuando íbamos nosotras por la calle con un pedido y de pronto en la calle, en la mitad de la calle veíamos caer una persona, quedar ahí tendida en el piso sin que nadie pudiera ayudarla, sin que nosotros mismos pudiéramos acercarnos a prestarle una ayuda por temor al contagio? En cuántas ocasiones yo en lo personal vi a un compañero caer, enfermarse por COVID y sin siquiera podernos acercar y sentir esa impotencia de no poder ayudar, que sabíamos que el domicilio que estábamos llevando era una ayuda para una familia, pero ¿y quién nos estaba ayudando a nosotros? ¿Quién ayudó a uno de nuestros compañeros? Cuando en alguna ocasión a un señor ya mayor tuvo que ir hospitalizado con paros cardíacos, todo lo que traía el COVID, y nunca nadie, ese señor tuvo que pagar todo de su bolsillo, su familia fue la que lo apoyó, porque del gobierno, del Estado, de nuestros compañeros y menos aún de las plataformas hubo una ayuda. Por el contrario, si sabían que estábamos enfermos, lo que recibíamos fueron bloqueos. Nadie se preocupó por darnos medidas con que protegernos. Y eso nos pasó a todos a nivel mundial, a los héroes, a los que nos llamaron héroes. Los héroes del mundo, los héroes para todo, pero los héroes que no nos hicieron visibles en el momento que también necesitamos ayuda, porque también somos seres humanos. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Luz Miriam. I want to raise up what you said about first, in direct answer to the question around data, that the biases built in that are the biases of human beings, and that is wrapped up in the entire world of platform applications and the ways in which they attempt to govern those who use them. But the other thing, when you spoke about the experience of platform workers out in the world, we can't really use the term everyone was at home because everyone was not at home. The heroes that we clap for or appreciate in the moment, but don't put concrete fundamental support behind, were not at home, as you said. And so I really appreciate you highlighting that as an experience for so many in the pandemic, and particularly in platform. Again, another area in which people are forgotten. So we had a couple more questions, and I want to give some more space. We have just a few more minutes. Pari, do you want to figure out how we do this?
Yes, I'm going to read what looked like a comment first, and then go to a question. So we have a comment here from Carol Barton, who says, thanks for this very important conversation, noting an important case in the US where Uber, Lyft, DoorDash companies, one second, I'm having tech issues, supported a voter proposition in California that legally establishes gig workers as independent contractors. They sold this to the public as enabling flexible work hours. Wording of the proposition was confusing, and the proposition passed. A judge overturned it in 2021, and it is currently being appealed by the gig companies. It shows the kind of money they are willing to invest in the manipulation of the public to keep this exploitative business model in place. This is likely to go to the California Supreme Court. She has also provided a link to an article that has more information. We also have a question. The question says, I want to know how urgently the government or any other agency is responding to the difficulties women are having in their daily work in their various countries in this industry. That's a question, if anyone wants to respond to
that. Ayubami, would you like to answer that? Gulmayran?
Okay, thank you very much. Here in Lagos, Nigeria, the government is not helping in any way. And even if you have issues and you go to the police force, instead of them trying to help out, they are looking for ways to extort you. How they are going to collect money from you instead of solving the problem is what they'll be looking after. And in so many cases, we try to, create awareness to the government that we, in the transport system, we need security. But nothing has been done till now, because we have series of attacks. We lose drivers like every now and then. And yet, there's no help. One of our drivers was killed sometime last year. And we really took it up. We called the app company to inform them about it. It was in the news. And yet, there was no help. The only thing we were able to do was to pay the family of the deceased a visit, of condolences. Aside that, there's no help. The last time we called the government to help us, that we need regulation in the e-hailing sector. The only thing the government did was to bring in their own app, their own working app and cars for people to work. Meaning, governments only saw the business side of the economy of our situation instead of the security side. So basically, there's no help. That is why I say in my interview that you are your own security. And every trip you're carrying, you are at risk. So you are the one that is going to provide your own security. You are the one that is going to know how the trip you're taking at that moment would not lead to any form of attack or harassment. So we'll be happy if the government can actually come to our aid in providing security, because it's not even only in the sector, in the e-hailing sector, it is a general problem in the country right now. So, like your question, there's no help from the government yet. Maybe in the nearest future, though, we look up to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayobami. And really, let's just put this back to the fundamental work that the folks are doing with their unions across all of the panelists. You would have heard, and I want to lift that up, Ayobami's union, as it is formally registered, has built its strategy to engage with the policymakers, the legislators, that this is fundamental and essential as a role of government to regulate and participate in this. Same, I know, in Kyrgyzstan, in Colombia, and in the Philippines, this is all part of the strategy. Government isn't going to take this on themselves, and the companies aren't going to make this happen. It'll be the role of the unions, and we're in the middle of making that drive. We have one last question we really want to make sure we get into. So Pari, go for it.
A great question from our phone colleague, Janet Anaele. She says, great presentations. Does any of the platforms have an established mechanism to report issues of gender-based violence and harassment or harm? If yes, how effective is the mechanism?
Right. Fellow panelists, we have a very brief amount of time. I'm going to hand it to you. I don't know what who of you could answer this question. So if one of you has any possibility for a mechanism for dealing with gender-based violence and harassment, go ahead and take the torch. We have a tiny amount of time.
Okay, sorry, I would like to take that. So like I said earlier, here in Nigeria, we have the ladies, because we are all about women here. We have an association of ladies that drive. So in that association, we have group of ladies. We are over 300 here in Nigeria. And we are there to make sure that we see to the day-to-day activities of every lady out there. Whereby if any lady have any issues of harassment or any form of abuse, you can contact anybody. You come to the group. We have a WhatsApp group, and you can come to the group and give information of that trip and see. And before you took it up on high, you already have you get help out there, because we have ladies driving around every part of Lagos State, Nigeria. So you can't say you might be here and the person you're calling on is just in the next street. So before you know it, you already have help. So that person can actually come, if it is what she can handle, come alone to rescue you or inform the police that she will come with. But most times, most cases, we are able to come out and defend ourselves, even without the help of the government. So I will advise every other state, every country to have an association like that. Women, because we know how to solve our own problems, believe me. So if you can add that, we'll be able to solve those problems that are just within you, and we'll all be fine. Thank you.
Ayobami, wow. Thank you for sharing that. I'm so glad we were able to include that question and answer at the very end. Folks, this has been an honor. I really appreciate it. I hope we can make connections in the ways that help and serve you and the struggles that you're fighting. I'll pass it to Noor. It has been an honor, and I can't wait to hear your progress.
Thanks, Emily. And I can't say goodbye without thanking everyone for being here. So I'm going to say a quick round of thank yous. Thank you to all our phenomenal speakers for being here. Luz, Miriam, Gulmayram, Ayobami, and Rose for joining us today and sharing more about your phenomenal work mobilizing and organizing for decent working conditions. I want to thank our interpreters for making this event possible and accessible. I want to thank our co-sponsor, the International Trade Union Confederation, the ITUC. And then I also want to thank my colleagues who helped me organize this event. So Emily, thank you. Abby, Danielle, Bashman, Sunny, Aaron, Danielle, Kari, Tiff, Julia, Terrence, Natalie, Diana, Andre, and Alonso. Thank you so much. And thank you to all our attendees for attending this event. We hope that you'll join us in future events as well. Thank you all for joining.
Igualmente, gracias a ustedes por la invitación.